advertising industry. It's quite like familiar for everyone industry because we are facing advertisement every day on a daily basis, and we understand that if we compare what was happening in this industry like 30 years ago and now, it's absolutely different. At the moment, it's tailor-made uh, advertisement. You see what you kind of more likely to find if you're interested in, let's say, tech stuff. You are going to see advertisement about different tech products. If you're interested in toys or games, you're going to see toys and games. If you have children, etc. So at the moment, the industry is quite complicated, and a lot of companies, normal businesses, they have to compete because and compete not only quality of the product. If 20 years ago, if you have a product, you're fine. It doesn't really matter, good or bad, people will buy it. At the moment, there are so many different products, and all of them quite good. And the profitability of the company now, companies depends not only on the like quality of the product, but also on how they operate, how they sell, on their margin, and etc. etc. And what happens right now that advertisement industries, and like they're not separate advertising, they're more like integrating in the business itself. They have to understand how business operate, because only in this particular case they can create the effective advertisement. Like you probably guys aware that if you put an ad as a company, put an ad in internet, so you can trace and you can understand, even you can monitor how the ad affected by performance of the ad affected if you just change the title in this ad or change the picture in this ad or something else. And of course, the ad is only a surface what is done in this particular industry, because majority of work, it's after that, it's integration in the business processes. Because if somebody saw the ad, what is happening after that? They see that, they click on that, then it has to be like whatever landing page or sales page. They have to have a special offer, and then how to deal with this offer, and then retargeting, and etc. So advertising industry is quite complicated now as well. And the more information the like advertising company has about the behavioral patterns of the client, the more precise campaign they can create. As a result, bigger companies which have access to big data, they have a competitive advantage compared to this, like if you take the smaller company, because it's quite easy to create, let's say, advertising agency. The only thing you need is just a skill how to create maybe an ad, or to work with Google Ads or connection with the different newspapers, and that's it. And you can call and you tell that you're advertising agency, but then the result of your services might be very, very bad because you don't understand fully that industry. That's why during the last 10, 15 years, there was a consolidation process of kind of eliminating small advertising companies, advertising agencies, and building bigger brands. And today's company, which we're going to cover today, it's the second biggest in the world. And if you look at that particular industry, there are not so many companies which operate on a global scale. Of course, there are smaller companies, but they don't have a competitive advantage in terms of services with the bigger companies. All right. So despite the high level of competition in this particular industry, still, if somebody integrates with the business, it's quite difficult to move from one marketing and advertising company to another one, because in this particular case, you will have to educate completely the new agency with everything, with your product, with your processes, with your services, with your people, with everything. It's quite complicated. Even with our small company, I remember when we invited the professional like advertiser, like in Google AdWords and Yandex Direct, majority of time which we spent, it was educating them what we are offering. and about our processes in order to create a like perfect advertising campaign. All right, and of course, you probably kind of see that advertising industry is very correlated, direct correlation with the economical situation in the country, in the world in the general, because if economy is bad, sales going down, profit goes down, majority of businesses, what they do, they cut the advertising budget. Okay, they do that. But at the same time, from my experience, when I was running a company in Ireland, and I remember that we used maybe 10 different platforms, 10 different newspapers in order to advertise. But when the crisis hit us, we didn't stop advertising, because if we stopped advertising, it means like we had to die. I mean, we wouldn't be able to sell, right? The advertisement is the core process in the company. But what we've done, we analyzed different companies and we stopped using kind of the less effective companies, and we left only 2 out of 10. We left 2 the most effective newspapers and started dealing with them. But interesting enough, we not only reduced advertisement in advertising campaigns in different companies, we increased the advertising spending in that 2 companies. We started spending more money with them. We started working with them more precisely. We were writing articles, different reviews, etc. Not only just placing an ad there. And that's what's happening right now as well, because companies, they if before they might try and test different platforms just to see if they're going to work or not going to work. At the moment, they're not going to do that. And in the first kind of stage, they're going to reduce advertising spendings, but in a less effective advertising companies. So in the bigger companies with a more effective structure, they're going to get more money. And those companies are small companies, which are kind of not getting clients. They're going to leave the market. And the empty space doesn't exist. So it means that bigger company will come and take it. So I presume that companies which, big companies, which are going to handle this crisis, they're going to take over the small agencies during this period of time. And after the crisis, they're going to feel even better. That's kind of my opinion. You might guys have different opinion, but that's what I've seen before, and that's what we can see now as well. If we go to value line, value line tells that majority of advertising companies, they have very good like perspectives about 2020, like when it was before crisis, and then it was quite a surprise that this crisis came to the place. And at the moment, they can see in all industry the reductions in sales and reduction in earnings, as I just described. And also what it says here, that there are only few big companies in the world which control the market. And as you can see that OMC, Omnicom, it's one of the biggest, it's second biggest in the world since 2017, considered to be second biggest in the world by like advertisement spendings there. All right, so quite big company. And at the moment, despite it has a bad view for this particular year, but for next year, value line, consider if like the crisis is not going to last for long term, majority of companies in this particular industry, they're going to performing quite well, okay, in this case. Now, what I've done, I went to FinViz, I typed OMC, and then I found this particular sector. And you can see, interesting enough, that I just put by PE. And look, only few companies are profitable. The rest of companies are not profitable. I didn't show the second page there because like it definitely they're not profitable companies. And look at this, the lowest PE was 7, okay, but the company was only 248 million, so it's quite small company. The OMC, it was a second company, it's nearly $12 billion by capitalization, and PE is only 9. Okay, and then There are a few another company who is pretty good is IPG and WPP. Okay, so they're quite big as well. But the APE was higher, so that's why I considered ONC for today's masterclass. And probably also I consider that specific company because I have good feeling about it. I already made money with it previously, and I kind of monitored it for the last couple of years. So like I've read about it. So I kind of like what I see. Okay, so that's why I've decided to look at this company tonight. And but if you look at several companies, like we've done IPG, WPP, and OMC, look at their charts. They're very, very similar, very identical. The only difference is that IPG and WPP, they kind of grew more after the fall, whereas OMC didn't. OMC is quite volatile. The volatility is quite high. But if we see the growth wasn't as high as kind of as these two companies. So it means that it has a higher potential to grow now in the future. It's also another reason why I looked at this particular company. All right, so that's how general industry looks like. I don't know, guys, if you have any questions about the industry, specific industry, or any comments, please write them down, or I can give you the microphone. You can tell me if you want to share some of your experience. If all clear, just put from 0 to 10, and we'll continue to the company itself.